Welcome to Horror Year, where every story is a journey into the unknown. If you're brave enough to face your darkest fears and uncover the most chilling tales, you've come to the right place. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and subscribe to Horror Year. Your journey into terror begins now. At the outside of the town, the dilapidated brick walls of the old hospital were engulfed by vines and oppressed by the passage of time. Originally constructed as a stately home in the early 1900s, the facility had long since been abandoned, with patients, staff, and physicians having left. The experiments, the odd disappearances, and the patients who entered, but never emerged, were among the horrors that the village had heard rumors about. Years later, nobody dared go too close even now. All of that changed when the rundown building was purchased and used for a new purpose. After seeing promise in the dilapidated hospital, a wealthy and eccentric developer converted it into a retirement community. Serenity Pines, as he initially named it, was soon dubbed Whispering Pines by the residents. A place could take on a name of its own through strange happenings. When Anna moved into Serenity Pines, she had just turned 65. Her children were occupied with their own lives. Her husband had died 5 years previously, and the silence in her big, empty house had grown intolerable. It seemed like she would receive the attention and company she so much needed. Though there was something about the way the retirement home personnel constantly looked over their shoulders, as if expecting to see something, or someone behind them, it seemed that the staff was generally kind. Anna woke up the first night she slept in her new room to the sound of whispers. At first, it was only a faint murmur that seemed as though it was coming through the walls. She wrote it off as the wind rattling through the window cracks or the hum of the old pipes. However, the noise continued. The whispers became clearer and louder each night. They were coming from inside the walls, not from the outside. It wasn't just Anna who noticed. The other residents whispered to each other about the odd noises. Although the personnel swore it was all in their heads, some claimed to have heard footsteps wandering the hallways late at night. Some reported seeing dark shapes dart past doorways and vanishing as they got closer. Carl was a man who lived at Serenity Pines and was among the older residents. Many years ago, while the hospital was still in use as a psychiatric facility, he had been a patient there. Though he never discussed his stay there, he frequently just stared aimlessly at the walls, his eyes heavy with memories he would never talk about. Anna discovered Carl talking to himself while sitting in the common room late one night. "They never left," he muttered, his terrified eyes wide. In the walls they remained present, holding out, observing. A shiver went down Anna's spine. "Carl, who's still here?" she whispered. His eyes swept across her as though he had never seen her before. His voice became a hoarse whisper. "The individuals receiving care, the medical professionals, they committed atrocious acts. While they passed away here, they never went." Anna woke up that night with her heart thumping fiercely in her chest. Now that the murmurs were closer, it felt like they were talking to her. She struggled to understand, catching only snippets of what she was saying. "Help me. Don't leave. It's coming." Anna started to pick up on other strangeness about the house. One would discover locked doors to be standing ajar. The weird, flickering shadows that the lights cast seemed to dance around the walls as they flickered constantly. She witnessed items moving on their own several times, chairs gliding across the floor, books toppling off shelves without anyone touching them. The employees never seemed to notice, always saying that everything was good. But everything was far from perfect. The power went out one evening. Everything in the house was black except for the faint glow of the moon peeking through the windows. The voices became louder, reverberating throughout the space and around Anna like a horde of vengeful bees. Then she noticed something in her room's corner. A figure, with its face hidden by shade, stooped and malformed. It watched her with eyes that gleamed like broken glass, and it remained still. Breath stuck in Anna's throat as she froze. The thing started to move, crawling closer with its twisted limbs scraping the floor. Heart racing, Anna scurried out of bed, but the apparition seemed to follow her everywhere. It seemed to be affixed to her, pulled to her anxiety akin to a moth to a flame. In an attempt to locate someone, any someone, she dashed into the corridor. The hallways were deserted, and the murmurs had turned into a din of voices surrounding her. The old wooden floors echoed with the sound of footfall once more, but this time they were heavier. They weren't only in her thoughts. Something was about to happen. When she arrived in the common area, the emergency lights emitted a faint, jerky light. There they were, the other residents, their eyes wide and their faces pallid as they huddled together in dread. Carl was also present, swaying back and forth in his seat with frightened eyes. He said, "They're here. They're coming for us." The lights flickered once again, and the room was completely dark for a short while. Carl was gone when the lights came back on. His empty chair continued to wobble as though someone had ripped him out of it. Anna hardly heard the screams from the other residents. Her gaze was riveted on the wall on the other side of the room, on the dark shapes whose faces were contorted in pain and that appeared to be seeping out of the walls like smoke. The occupants were taken into the darkness one by one, their cries drowned out by the incessant murmurs. Anna bolted into the labyrinth of hallways, her feet propelling her blindly. The chilly breath of something ancient and evil was brushing over the back of her neck, and she could feel them behind her. She wandered into the ancient hospital wing, now long abandoned, but not completely devoid of the ghosts of its sinister history. Blood-stained sheets, rusted gurneys, and damaged medical equipment were all over the floor. Here, the murmurs were more intense, nearly overwhelming. With a shaking body, Anna withdrew into a corner, her breath coming in jagged gasps. And suddenly, the ghosts of the past materialized out of the darkness. The doctors and patients were all twisted and shattered, with angry and sorrowful eyes. With skeletal hands, they made a silent appeal with their mouths as they grabbed for her. Anna realized there was no way out. She had been claimed by the hospital, like so many others had been before her. She felt the cold, clammy hands lock around her throat as the shadows drew in. The whispers vanished from her view and left nothing behind. After that, there was a pause in conversation. A few weeks later, the town was informed of the terrible fire that destroyed Serenity Pines, killing every employee and inhabitant. It was never established what started the fire. The residents whispered about it, saying that the hospital had finally taken its last victims. However, if you pay close attention, you can still hear the whispers in the stillness of the late-night air, the vestiges of the former, the spirits that never vanished. They're still waiting too. And that brings us to the end of today's delightful story. I really hope it had you on the edge of your seat. If you liked this story, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. It means a lot to me. And if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe. There's always an exciting surprise waiting just around the corner and you won't want to miss it. Do you have a spooky story to share or a fun idea for our next tale? Feel free to share in the comments below. I'm really curious to know what gives you the creeps the most. And as always, take care, keep exploring. And remember, sometimes the most chilling tales are the ones left untold. Catch you in the next one, if you're up for it.